Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's live discussion on Night of the Seven Kingdoms, getting into episode 4, and of course joined by the usual special guests. First, we got Sir Don. Don, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, Valamogolis, and who the fuck is Sir Stepron?
And also joining us as always, Darrin. A blast to have you as always.
Oh yeah, excited to jump into it. Things are happening now. So let's get some excitement.
All right, so I couldn't remember the title of the episode, so I looked it up. It's 7. So not to be confused with the Brad Pitt movie, but anyway,
very different.
Yeah. Yeah. So my overall thoughts on the episode, which I tried to rewatch it today, but I only saw a little bit of it. So saw it on Friday, so we're a bit a bit late here. But my overall thoughts on the episode was, yes, the show is finally getting good, and yes, this is a really good episode, but I think it bodes poorly for the show overall in terms of pacing, because it seems like the episode itself viewed in the vacuum was fine pacing, but when combined with the previous 3 episodes, it seems at a much faster pace than the previous 3 episodes. It seems like they dragged out the introduction and the preamble, and to this, I feel like they could have spent 2 episodes on this material. If they went at the same pace they went at the previous pace. I feel like they could have dragged this out more, and they could have explored more of this episode. Had a real high noon feel to it, who's gonna help me and whatever. And I remember when I saw the trailer for this episode, and they showed the point, because I read the books and I knew what was going to happen. They showed the scene where he's yelling, "Is there any true knights among you?" And I'm like, that can't be the next episode. I expected that to be episode 5. It seems like it would be too soon to have that scene. But I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking too soon. Maybe when I see episodes 5 and 6, I'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. That's why they had to pace it that way. But for me, it seems like I don't even know what they're going to do for episode 6. I know what they're going to do for episode 5. I think that's obvious. But, but I don't know. I know so far, even if they do justify the pacing with episode 5 and 6, I would still feel like then you should have cut short 1 and 2 or 3. 1, 2, and 3 could have been condensed into 2 episodes. Then I don't know. That's just where my mind went, was all the pacing. But other than that, if I judged the episode in the vacuum, I think it was the best episode so far. Clearly, it's where they definitely got interesting. They killed it on the poop jokes and the and the pissing jokes and whatnot, and it had less of a sense of humor too, though. It had that dire feeling to it, which I think is actually perfect. But I don't know if it clashes with the rest of the show. Anyway, I'll shut up now and turn it over to Darrin. What did you think of this episode?
Well, I don't know if it's ever a good sign that you have to be like, I gotta wait for the whole series to be done to see if they properly pace this out. Because I do remember, the one thing I do remember from the book, because it was, again, some time ago, was that it started out a little slow, and then once it started going, it was going, and it was good. It was just that little, and I felt that was that transition in this episode. You're right. What you said last week is it's odd to have the inciting incident happen halfway through the story. And there is such a noticeable tone difference between this episode and the previous ones. This was deadly serious. Again, I don't think there was a single bodily function that was exploited in this episode. but beneath, you're right, the kind of meandering ha-ha, and then it's like deadly serious. It was a little bit of a shock. I mean, I liked the episode. It was good, and I don't mind something like this that has some humor. But yeah, it was very much in um, contrast to the first 3 episodes. And you're right, definitely about pacing. Now, because so much is happening, these little half-hour snippets feel unsatisfying. And you're like, what's going to happen next week? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen next week. You're going to have a battle, and then halfway through the battle, it's going to stop, and then they're going to finish it in the next episode and do the little wrap up, because that's how everything is kind of paced here. And I mean, I don't know, half hours of shows is tough. I will think ultimately this will end up have better as either a binge product, or if it was just tightened into like, 2 movies or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I liked what happened in this episode, and I'm looking forward to the next ones. It just really was, again, a big shift.
So I will point out, to correct myself as well, that there was a bodily function in this episode. There was the guy who got up and farted when they tried to make it seem like he was going to be the help, and they were playing the music, but then he just farted. So that was a slight moment of levity. But, yeah.
True. But that seemed actually appropriate for this,
Yes. Yeah, it didn't seem as out of place as the other ones. Or gratuitous, maybe.
Well, I think that was the approach to the humor, but it was like that's not really what was called for in the moment,
Yeah.
So
Anyway, Don, your thoughts on the episode?
I mean, listen, I like the episode overall. I think it was a very good depiction of the events from the books as far as translation, adaptation. And yeah, I get what you guys are saying about the pacing. This kind of almost speeding to a stop sign to a certain extent. Even though this episode kind of started off slowly, definitely ramped up, and then at the very end, it just kind of gets truncated just a little bit. But I'll be honest with you, I like the way that this ended, because I want the kind of Battle of the Bastards style episode, or Blackwater episode, where it's all out action, and then the next episode after that is the cleanup. So I think that they tried their best to give that balance. Whereas, like, for the most of that stuff, you don't normally in Game of Thrones, even House of the Dragon, everything was the build up to the battle in the episode, and the battle happened in the episode, and then the aftermath in the next one. They just kind of shifted it here to where you get the build up in one episode, and then the next one should be okay. Boom! Let's get all cylinders fired. So it's a little different than what we're used to, but I think that this might be one of those ones where you go back and you just take a day to binge watch or whatever. It'll flow a little bit better. So I get the frustration, but at the same point, they're trying to also create that water cooler talk where people are like, oh man, I can't wait until next week. What's going to happen? Unfortunately, due to missteps that they've made in the past, it doesn't have the same hype that it used to. But I like what they're doing, and it still it gives me a little bit of that old feel of, oh man, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
All right, cool. So we opened the episode with Dunk in the cell and A coming and visit him, and this is true to the books, but I do like how Dunk is like brazen and not like cowering under oh, you're, a prince near my hire. He's like, basically, screw you. You lied to me. Why the hell did you lie to me? And he's like very rough on Egg, but then Egg takes him to see oh, why am I blanking on his name? Is it Baylor? Yeah, okay, Baylor. Yeah. And again, as we were talking about in early episodes, he appeared like he's a good guy. Like he actually wants to do right by the realm, but he has this sort of, and this is the line I remember from the book that I really like, that when he points out to Dunk, he's like, Egg, did you know fight favors by going to get you? Like he should have gotten me. And I also like when, Dunk challenged him. He's like, if you saw someone, Arion snapping this innocent woman's fingers, would you not act? He's like, yeah, I might, but I'm a prince, not a hedge knight. And that leads to like an interesting sort of theme of the episode of is it, should you do the right thing no matter what, or should you know your place? Should you obey the hierarchy? Is which is more important, to do the right thing or to obey the hierarchy? And I feel like Baylor is kind of, if like unclear on, like he's taking the stance of, yes, your head knight's your place, but especially knowing what he does at the end of the episode, it seems like he may actually change his mind on that position. And yeah, I think it's what I really like about the scene is how it starts out with him saying, how good of a knight are you? And he's like, oh, I think I'm okay. He taught me how to do this. And he explains everything. And he's like, like, cut off your hand. So I ask you again, how good of a knight are you? And so, yeah, so that was a nice sort of bookend to the scene. So overall, yes, I think these were really good, powerful scenes. But Don, we'll kick it over to you next.
As far as the opening is concerned, it was definitely one of those things where, like for one, I don't know if it looked like this on you guys' TV, but for me, it took me a minute before I was able to figure out that he was actually inside the cell, because I think they tried to mirror it from a few episodes ago when he's under the stars. So it took a little minute before I realized he was inside.
Yeah, I think that was intentional. Yeah.
Okay. I like the little detail when Egg, first rolls up. Now he's got on his Targaryen garb, but he's still acting like the same kid. He doesn't seem any more confident or self assured than earlier, because he's like, oh damn, I screwed up. So he's trying to show humility and be humble in this instance, because yeah, he knows, what the potential consequences for Dunk can be for what he did. So yeah, I like the back and forth between them, and just the way that you see, like, yeah, he's being rough with Dunk, because I mean, listen, how long was he with Arlen? He was probably with him for like 6 or 7 years. That's what he's used to. But then he, realizes, like, yeah, this kid is probably younger than he was, or maybe around the same age that he was when he first started being Squire. So, like, yeah, you know what? This is a kid who knows nothing about the kind of hard life that I live. So, I need to cut him just a little bit of slack, because, yeah, I mean, he grew up in the Red Keep. Like, what does he know about sleeping under hedges and, having to scrape for meals and all that stuff? So, okay, yeah, I want to be mad at him, but he was trying to do me a little bit of a favor being my squire, and also, yeah, he he know I like Tansel. You know, he knows I would do anything for that woman. I'll be her Florian. So you know, I do like their back and forth, and I think that even though we don't get Dunk's inner monologue like in the books, they did they did a great job in the scene work in kind of giving you how he feels, what he might be thinking inside. And Peter Claffrey, I think, is doing an excellent job as Dunk. And you know, I can't wait to see more seasons with him and how they develop the character. Um, and as far as the meeting with Baylor, it was also very interesting to see that interplay. And you know, there was a lot of Baylor kind of prodding and testing him to see, like, okay, are you, you know, is this really who you are? You know, or was this kind of a fluke? You know, there was a lot of him testing to see, like, is he really this honorable man that he's kind of portraying himself as? Or was this, you know, just like, oh, you know, he had the hots for this puppeteer, and he went and did this dumb shit because my nephew put him up to it. And he realizes, like, oh yeah, he did this dumb shit because my nephew put him up to it, but he would have done it for anybody. It's not just because it was Tansel. And so I think that, you know, when it comes to later in the episode, um, you know, just the way things play out between them. This is kind of the start of that, where he kind of is taking the measure of him, seeing who he is as a person. And so, like, I really, really like that. And damn it, I wish that Baylor would have, you know, been able to do more in the future. And I'll just leave it at that.
Look, baby Grogu is adorable. Is pretty much how my wife describes all of these scenes with Egg, and now I can't see him any other way. Because he's a little magical ball-headed kid that knows more than you would think that he knows. I did like the scene in the jail cell between the two of them, because it is such an incredibly straightforward, honest exchange between the two of them. And yeah, Don, you're right. Even though Egg's in his, you know, Targaryen garb, he is still treating Dunk as his knight, of which whom he is the squire. It is a very interesting kind of exchange right there. And I like that Dunk is straight mad at him for what he's done, because effectively Dunk's deception has doomed him. You know, the fact that the Egg didn't reveal who he actually was. He's like, well, look, even if nothing had happened, they could accuse that I had kidnapped the Targaryen boy and take me off and be beheaded before any trial or anything is actually done, you know, let alone all of these sequences. Is so it's very understandable, of course, that he is mad. And I like the fact that he explains it to him, and he's direct at why he is upset and what Egg has really done, because I think it's an important counterpoint when he is talking with Baylor afterwards. And Baylor's talking like, yeah, that kid's doing it wrong. And he's like, no, he's a good kid. He's really trying to do the right thing. It's like he's really, it allowed him to take an honest measure of each other, because they were being honest down there. So now that the anger has flowed from him, he can really take, you know, a fair statement back and forth. And I really like that. And yeah, I like the fact that Baylor's kind of determining what is Dunk's real motivation in here, you know, what kind of person who he is. And again, this is that other, because of the honesty that we have been seeing, there is no deception. And I think that's what's really throwing Baylor off in this. And he's like, okay, well, you say you're this, but a lot of people claim this. You know, we'll see another knight later on who also poses to be big and important, who then, you know, changes side in a heartbeat. You know, what is the measure of this? And the fact that he's a hedge knight, you know, all that he has is his honor. I do, and you're right, there is kind of an interesting exchange there of, well, what's a hedge knight versus a prince, and who's going to respond to a situation like that? And it also shows the falseness of, you know, the upper echelon's viewpoint of this. It's like, well, yeah, a knight's supposed to do the right thing, but not against a prince. If he's, well, wait, that doesn't really. And I think that setting up kind of in this scene is what really pays off at the end of the episode when we get that last reveal.
I do agree that Baylor was kind of sizing Dunk up and like testing what kind of man he was, but I also think that he knew right away that that Darrin was full of shit and that Arion was overreacting. I think he knows his family well enough to know that, yeah, that they're full of shit, and Dunk is actually sort of innocent of the charges, but he's kind of, I think, maybe sizing Dunk up to see if he is an honorable man.
They also did the real interesting reveal here of why Egg, without saying it directly, of why Egg got Dunk and not his uncle. Because he said, you know, you should have gotten me. I would have put a stop to it. But Egg knew there was a likelihood that Dunk could kill Arion, and that's what he
interesting.
wanted.
That is interesting. I know that Egg starts to say, "Oh, there wasn't time," but I wonder if that was just an excuse. If maybe the real reason is that he wanted someone who could kill him.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that would be the primary motivation. I think it's just that, again, he's undercover. He is squire to Sir Dunk. It's a knight's duty to stop and do the right thing. He is the one that he should go to in that, you know, in that sense. But, you know, there might be some background thought of like, should I go right or should I go left? Well, he could stop him, but Dunk might kill him while saving. You're right. I don't have time to go to my uncle. You know,
yeah,
it might be weighing in there. Just how much of a weight in that choice is it?
Yeah, true. All right, so then we get the, I guess you call trial scene where he's brought before the high lords and he demands the trial by combat. And I do love like the contrast between, like, if we think of the Game of Thrones season 4 episode with Tyrion, where he's like, I demand a trial by combat, where Dunk is just standing there as like, trial by combat, like, sort of, because he's like uncomfortable in this situation and doesn't really know how it works. But yeah, I like Arion's first reaction is, I refuse. And they're like, no, you can't refuse unless you want to withdraw your accusations. And then he's like, all right, fine, trial by 7, you know, and Makor's like, what the fuck is a trial by 7? And it's interesting because it shows that Arion's a little bit like well-read to know about this like ancient, seldom practiced ritual. And I've heard it posited by other channels that maybe Arion's doing this because he wants to be in the history books. He wants to make a big show. Like, this is something that's hardly ever done, trial by 7. But it's also implied in this scene that, because Makor sort of asks him, why don't you just take him on by yourself? Are you afraid of him? I think the answer is yes. I think he sees how big Dunk is, and even if he's not that skilled, he's kind of intimidating. So he's like, all right, well, if I say trial by 7, he's probably not going to find 6 other people, so I can avoid the trial by combat. And if he does get the other 6 people, then I can like get the best people and end up in the history books. I think he was kind of hedging his bets. I also like the way they really are portraying him like an 80s high school and like the way he's sitting there smashing the walnuts, and he forces, like, I think that was Lord Ashford forces him to go underneath the table and pick it up, and he doesn't even care. He's out of the room by the time he finds it. They're doing a really good job of showing him as a prick that you really don't like, and this goes along with why Aig hates him so much as well, and why Baylor doesn't really take him that seriously. And so so I think this was a very effective scene as well. Darren, we'll go to you for this one.
Oh yeah, I mean, total dick vibes off of Arian in this one. It's just and I think it is much more of a I don't want to face him alone type of decision, because with 7 people, anything could happen. At least wear him down, and then I can, find a good moment to go in. It's just better, much better odds that way, versus taking on this knight who he doesn't know anything about. And he is big, and that's already a risk. But we've already seen what Arian was dodging a lance before and then stabbing a neck. So is he not as good a knight as we pretend and just more cruel, or is he more skilled than we think? This definitely, I think, seems to imply that he is more concerned with being bested. I mean, I get the history books things, and I think you're right. He does seem well read enough that he knows some historical thing. He didn't in any way seem to present any idea that he wanted to be in the history books or this was a big thing. To me, I got entirely that the reason he's doing it is because he doesn't want to face him actually in combat about this. Whether it's because he's concerned of him or he doesn't want to waste his time is hard to tell with the smashing of walnuts there. But no, I really did like this scene. It was just a great character bit, back and forth and establishing it. Again, more of Dunk not really knowing how things work, but also starting to pick things up pretty quickly of how he has to present himself. So, I mean, in many ways, for becoming a knight, he really is getting a trial by combat because he has to learn very quickly. And the one thing he's showing is that he is adapting quickly. Don?
Well, what I'll say, yes, Arian Targaryen, absolute high school, college dick. I mean, like when he points, like, first off, he's using the butt of the knife to smash walnuts or whatever, and when the one rolls on the floor, he looks over to the Lord, the guy who's hosting the event at which you're a guest, looks over at him and is just like, yes, go under the table. Go under the table and get the damn walnut that fell. And why? Because, I'm a prince of the realm. So, yes, I get to order you around in your own home and embarrass you. And, it's funny that, like, I don't know. Does George have something against blonde people? Because it seems like blonde characters, whether it be silver blonde or golden blonde, just for the most part, happen to be jerk offs. I'm not exactly sure that's fair, but just this entire scene. Yes, obviously Arian is totally scared of Dunk, and I think for him, he was like, no, understand. I am Prince of the Realm. This will not go unpunished, period, point blank. So for him, he's like, well, I'm going to try to find a way to essentially tie everyone's hands in this situation. If I can't just get my uncle and whoever is on this tribunal to just side with me and chop off this guy's hand and foot just to teach him a lesson, fine. I can trap him legally because, hey, No one's gonna want to fight on some nobody side against me and my family. And so when he doesn't find his 6 other people, I just get to go and chop his hand and his foot off right in front of everybody, toss him out of here, and there goes another, another loser, and no one will ever lay hands on a prince of the realm ever again. And that's, that was his plan there. It just so happened that he underestimated how much being dick can backfire against you, even if you are a prince of the realm. So you had that whole thing, and like I like how House of the Dragon and also Knight of the Seven Kingdoms have so far given a sense that the Targaryens really are not Westerosi. Like, we forget, because in Game of Thrones, yeah, they're no longer in power. Daenerys is trying to fight to get back, and everything is all mentions of the Targaryens, but we don't get to actually see them interact, right? In House of the Dragon, because they're so closely tied in with the High Towers, the whole Faith of the Seven gets brought in a lot more because of High Towers and Old Town connection. But here, it gets very highlighted that, oh, no, these people are not from Westeros, and they have kind of intermingled into the culture, but they still have their own thing. So like when Makar is like, what the fuck is the Tribe of Seven? And they're explaining the whole thing, and he's like, oh, well, if the Andals brought it over, it's kind of like, oh, okay, we got to deal with this shit again. Okay, fine, the Andals, which is why he's so pissed off at Arryn. He's like, yeah, this isn't even our thing, like you're reducing us to a certain extent to playing by some other people's rules, and you're sitting here using this rule from a culture that we conquered in order for you to get revenge on this dude because you're just being that much of a dick. And that's part of the reason why he was so pissed off at him, is because, like, dude, no, man, listen, you're obviously, he's a big dumb brute. You're trained by the best masters at arms in the Seven Kingdoms because you live in the freaking Red Keep, and that's what we do. And you're wasting our damn time here because you're so scared that this big oaf is going to harm you. That you stoop to this, and now you got all of us roped into it. Get your ass over here. That's why he drags him out of there. Like, can't believe you got wrapped up in this bullshit.
Yeah, so then we get the scene where Dunk is talking to the Callaways, right? That's what they're called.
Fossiliers.
Fossaways, thank you. Fossaways. And we'll get to Sir Stefan later. But at the moment I want to talk about how Stefan's like, oh yeah, I'll fight for you, and because Raymond's like a close friend, and Raymond goes and finds him actually and brings him in, which is that. So it does show that Raymond is genuine in his friendship to Dunk and is concerned about him, and might be the only, like, other than Egg, might be the only like true friend he has amongst these people. And then speaking of Egg, he comes in. And Dunk is shocked to see him. Is like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm your squire. So I think this is kind of proven to Dunk that Egg wasn't completely being dishonest. He wasn't completely lying. He wasn't completely using him. That Egg actually does have a sense of sort of friendship and with Dunk. And he still wants to be his squire, even when he's going to be going against Egg's own family. that he stands up for him. So I think that meant something to him, even though he was a little irritated. And then of course, Darrin comes in, and Ed Dunk is not at all pleased to see him, hearing that he lied, saying that he kidnapped Egg when clearly he didn't. And it's funny when he attacks him, puts his knife to his throat. Raymond's like, whoa, because he's attacking a prince again. He's doing the same thing. He's in trouble for it. He's just like, they can only kill me once, which I thought was a good reaction to that. But yeah, so and then we get the scene where Darrin's like, "Look, I'm lied. I'm a no good. I'm a drunk. I'm shit. But don't worry, because I'm gonna be one of the people in the trial by combat, and just hit me in the side, make it look good, and I'll just don't hit me too hard. But I'm gonna go down, and you have nothing to worry about me." And then there's he goes out and tells him about the dream he had, and he's kind of reminding, like he says to Dunk, and I think this is also reminding the audience, is like, when I have dreams, it's not like when you have dreams. Like Targaryen dreaming is a little bit different. These dreams happen to come true, and I had a dream that there was a dragon slain, and you were there, and you were still standing. So it's really foreboding, and I like how it's foreboding. It's kind of setting up, is something going to happen? And I love how also when Dunk was talking to Egg, because Egg is like, yeah, I'm not worried about my father because he's going to be well protected. And Darrin just said he's going to take the fall, so he'll be fine, which leaves Arion. He's like, well, you want me to kill him then? He's like, well, if he does. And then then Egg tells a story, though, about how Darrin threatened to cut off his balls when he was a kid, and so he's obviously has good reason to hate him. But it's interesting to see the family dynamics there. But anyway, Don, let's kick it over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
So this is absolutely hilarious. Dunk goes to talk to his horses at first, and then Raymond comes around and is like, "Hey, Dunk is still alive, bro. Bro, you're here. You're here. Wait, were you just talking to the damn horses?" Okay, you know what? Listen, I'm hungry. Let's go inside the tent. All right. So when Sir Stefan, is talking the good talk, and yes, I am for you and all. You know what? If I hadn't already read the book, I might have believed him. I might have believed him if I hadn't already known what was gonna happen. He talked the good game. He talked a really good game, and I think they did an excellent job at making you feel like, hey, you know what? This might be a way for things to turn around for Dunk, and it was hilarious when Darrin shows up, and he's just like, look, man, I don't care about any of this, okay? Like, you can do whatever you want. I didn't want to be a part of any of this. I was trying to be drunk, and stay away from all this fighting and stuff. And look, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus, but what the hell was I supposed to tell my dad? Yeah. Hey, sorry, pops. I got drunk and the kid ran away. I didn't really even want to go to the tournament. I shaved his head so nobody would know who the hell we were and hound us while we're on the road. You're like, I didn't realize you were here. If I knew you were here, then I would have given him a different story. Sorry, bro. Listen, I'll let you get a free hit. I'll let you get the best free hit of all time. You can knock me off my horse, and then just give me one good whap to the back of the head. I'm done for. And there's one less person you got to worry about on the battlefield. And it's looking like things are gonna kind of work in Dunk's favor by all appearances. And the thing that I also liked, because I actually did rewatch the episode, when Darren is telling Dunk about his dream, there's actually little sound effects in the background. There are little dragon sound effects in the background when Dunk when Darren is telling Dunk his dream about the dragon dying and all that. I was like, oh, I didn't notice that at first. So I wish that the one thing I wish they would have done, but this might have been too much of a spoiler if they would have done it, is that they could have shown like kind of like in the background while all this is happening, like kind of like a little green screen effect with Dunk being there with a sword and shield and a big dragon about to kind of flop down on him or something like that. Not as like a flashback or something, but like something kind of like almost as like a little cutaway screen while Dunk is sitting there listening to Darren tell him about the dream. See, only thing I wish they would have done, but I don't think it would have fit in with the motif of the show. So, but otherwise, really like seeing. I thought it was absolutely hilarious the events that went on. And hey, yeah, you know what? I probably would have reacted the same way Dunk did too. It's just like, hey, you know what? They can only kill me once.
Yeah, that was, I have to say, having been so long since I did read the book, I was totally fooled with Sir Stefan right there. I was just like, yeah, especially because, this is kind of the change for Dunk to think that he is alone and definitely going to die. Is this gives him hope, and people do come. He does go and he gets people. So I mean, it's like, oh, the ones that we've run into, and the one-eyed warrior there, right, who fights for the mad, who fights for the warrior, and sometimes mad. So we're just the guy who was injured, of course, from Darren killing his horse. Yeah, I can ride. I can't stand, but I can ride. There are people that will stand up against the Targaryens. There are people that will fight for his side, and especially Lord Baratheon there showing up and finding out that was Egg who got him and brought him in.
So Darren, you're jumping ahead. This is
okay.
something I want to talk about later.
Okay, sorry.
I want to focus on the scene with Darren.
With Darren in there.
Yeah.
But the Darren scene, yeah, to me is like, it really does show that class cutoff, because ultimately, yeah, Darren lied because he had to cover his butt. He was getting drunk and Egg disappeared. And how long was it until he noticed that Egg wasn't even around? That's all up in the air. You could ask. But I think he's also very clear. It's like, yeah, I had to lie. And if this gets you killed, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't really mean to do it, but shit happens, and that's just the way of the world. And I got to cover my butt. And now, but yes, he does offer, but at the very least, I'll go down real quick, and that'll give you one less person that you have to worry about. So for kind of a piece of shit that will get Egg killed because he doesn't really want to get in more trouble than he's already in, he's kind of a good guy. But yeah, that's all I've got really to add.
All right, so we kind of get a sort of high noon sequence where he's like feeling like I don't know, like you said, like Stefan kind of gave him hope in that moment, but he still feels like he's like in a really tough spot and not sure if anyone's going to come to his aid. It was an interesting conversation between him and Steely Pete when he was gave him all the armor and the shield and heightened up the shield. And he's like, how much do I owe you for that? It's like just a copper, which is next to nothing. And it really goes to show, and I think you brought this up there, and how not like the Targaryens are, and how a lot of people are, maybe silently, but are willing to stick up or agree with like a hedge knight who is doing the right thing, even if it's going against Targaryens. But it's more of a sort of low key thing, which I thought was an interesting way to portray that. And also the shield, where that Tansel painted for him, and he's like, "Oh, this looks like death." But still, Pete's like, "No, you're looking at it wrong. The tree is like, green and bright and thriving." So it shows like Dunk's mindset at the time of feeling like he's fucked and everything is bad, but Stilly Pete being like, no, this is a good omen for you. I said before in a previous review that I was a bit disappointed that or that I was hoping they would expand Tansel's role, and I was a bit disappointed that they didn't. Or I don't know, maybe we'll see her in the next few episodes, but I doubt it. But but it makes sense that she would run away, because if she would get out of a city as soon as possible, because Arion wants to call her treasonous and saying that she's inciting riots just for doing a play, puppet play about dragon. Apparently, it's based off of an actual event where somebody used a shield as a mirror to fool the dragon. It had absolutely nothing to do with the Targaryens. It was in no way, shape, or form putting down the Targaryens. It's just Arion was being, overreacting. But I like Dunks and Tansel's chemistry. I was kind of disappointed they didn't do more with that. But anyway, Darrin, I don't know if you have anything to add about this part.
No, I mean, outside of one, they give a reason why we're not going to see her again, I think, in a smart way. Dude, she had to head to Dorne, man. She has not taken a chance. The prince wants to kill her. I mean, they even make a comment in one of the previous scenes that, or when he's talking with Baelor, is by the end of it, she'll be, accused of treason, or, there's by the time that it gets to the whole system, she'll definitely is going to be guilty in the eyes of the people. Will make that happen. So I was like, oh, this is why we don't see her again. Okay, I guess that makes sense, because I did like the chemistry, but it also is one of those lost drives, I think, for Dunk, of like, of course she had to go. God damn it, they took one more thing from me. It's I think it's interesting stuff. But what I love the most about this is that it really does show that the people are going to be behind Dunk. He saw what he did. You were the knight here that defended the innocent. And so I will do what I can to help you. This is all I can do. This is my trade, and I'll do this. And it's like, again, the people can't all stand up and fight, but they can do small little things that will make a huge difference in the end. And I think that's really what this scene kind of underlined, is just showed that, I know you feel alone, Dunk, but the people are actually behind you in this. And I think in a way that does drive him once he gets onto the field, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Don?
Yeah, this was all, like the lead up to all of this, him building the momentum, so that this next domino was like, hey, you know what? Yeah, now you're gonna have a better shield to protect you. Unfortunately, Tansel isn't gonna be here. She had to leave because, you know what? With the way that these people are acting right now, I'm not trying to die for a puppet show. But the fact that Steve Kate was like, hey, you know what? Just a copper. Like, I've seen what you've been going through. I see that you are a good and honorable person. you shouldn't have to, be subjected to what you're going through right now. And so, you know what? This is this is a small thing I can do for you, and hopefully it turns out for the best. And so, I enjoy that back and forth, and just again shows that not everyone is out for self, and when good people are doing good things, you will have people that will recognize that and will put in their best effort to help them out.
I also think that he showed a certain level of respect by not giving it to him. It's not charity. My services are worth something, but for you, it'll just be a copper. We are doing an exchange. This is an honest, trade back and forth. But the discount, obviously shows where he's really coming from.
Yeah, I do like how he specifically says "for you," like making it clear that is, yeah. So yeah, no, that part was really good. So then we get when Dunk shows up and he sees all the people, the one-eyed guy who apparently just crazy wants to sort of fight anyone, the guy who was injured by whose horse was injured, and obviously he would want revenge, and Sir Lionel. I don't know, I stand by a bit that Sir Lionel is just not, like, I wouldn't call him, he's not doing it for Dunk so much. I think he likes Dunk and thinks he's a good guy, but that's not what's motivating him. What's motivating him is like, oh, any chance to take down these Targaryen or whatever, or like, and also for him, I think it's definitely about being in the history books. It's definitely about doing so. Oh yeah, Fight of the Seven. This hasn't been done in a long time. I'm definitely got to be in now on that shit. And he's just like the crazy guy. But I like him though. I think he's not ill intention, even if his motivations are a little bit selfish, I think. And it is, I think, humbling for Duncan. It is interesting how he's like, oh, thanks Sir Stefan from getting you all, and he's like, who the fuck's Sir Stefan? It was your squire that came and got me. And so yes, and we find out that Stefan shows up. This is true to the books, and I do like it how devious he is. He's like, when he was like, "Oh, I only see 5." He's like, "No, we got 6." He's like, "What are you talking? I'm over there fighting with him," and how this really pisses Raymond off. It is really despicable. I will say that when I just read the book a couple weeks ago, I was fooled as well. I didn't think that I thought that Stefan would be true to his word, and I didn't think he would be that despicable. But when he was, I was like, yeah, that tracks. Like, I should have seen that. The guy was like an asshole the whole time. And see, if it wasn't for not only would Stefan fight for the other side, but Dunk would have no one. Because Stefan's like, oh yeah, no, I'll find people for you, and he didn't do anything to do that. So he's really despicable. And I love how Raymond was so upset that he's like, just knight me right now. I'll be your 6th man. I can fight with you. And so this brings up something interesting that Stress Free K put in the chat about that we still haven't seen Dunk knighted. I don't think it ever happened. And I think this scene confirms that, which I think is, like, the book doesn't tell you outright that he was knighted, but I got the impression from reading the book that he was. But from watching the show, I really get the impression that he wasn't. I mean, you got the earlier part in the season where he mentioned he was knighted, and they show a flashback to Sir Island going, not like, it doesn't seem like they were implying he did. But in this case, when they asked Dunk to knight Raymond, he's very hesitant. And they're like, any knight can make another knight, and I think they're implying that he knows that he was never knighted. So if he knights Raymond, then that's also going to be someone who's not really a knight. So I think that's why he was being so hesitant, and eventually gets called over, and Lionel Baratheon does it instead. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of a nice, like, warming scene to see, like, the band get together, and then the Raymond. As I said, I think Raymond's kind of a true friend to him, and yeah, that he's willing to. He doesn't have that much experience, but he's willing to risk his life. Although I think a lot of that has to do with being pissed off with Stefan and wanting to get back with him. But anyway, yeah. So Don, your thoughts on this?
Who the fuck is this Stefan? Man, yeah. I mean, like, just going back and thinking on the fact that he sold it. He sold it well. I'm for you. Yeah, protected the innocent like every night most, right? And okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go find people for you. I'll get Lionel and whoever else. And it's like, okay, man, you know what? That accent really sold it, brother. All right, and he, when he first off, he's not there with everyone else. When everyone else is standing there getting ready, he's not there at all. It's not until they get to the other side, where where everyone is lining up for the list, and he's like, "Oh yeah, fetch me my horse." I'm just, wait, dude, wait, I'm sorry, you said you were going to my side. Yeah, so about that, bro. You see, what happened was, but here's my whole thing, right? So he trades sides because I just noticed this. This might be a bit of a plot hole. He trades sides to be on the Targaryen side. Excuse me, essentially, right? But what happens if no one else shows up? If Egg wasn't able, or just actually took Stefan at his word, doesn't go get anybody else, no one else shows up, then the whole thing is forfeit, and there is no trial of 7. So, does he still get his lordship at that point?
Maybe. I think he would actually. I think they would, just for volunteering to do it, but I don't know.
All right. Well, either way, so it's one of these things where I'm like, man, how are so many of these historical characters just such assholes? Um, and listen, for the guys who did join Dunk's side, he was still kind of handicapped. He has one night with a broken leg. So what happens if you go down in that first charge? You get knocked off your horse in the first charge, pretty much done. Right? Because he can't walk. He didn't say, "Oh, I'm walking limp," or listen, I still got one good leg. No, he said I can't walk. But I'm on the horse, so like, okay. Then he's got one guy who's older, who's never won a tilt, and only has one eye. Right? Let's see here. He's got a Beesbury. All right, I don't know if Beesbury's can actually do anything other than get knocked over. Yeah, and now he's got a young guy who literally just got knighted. I want to see what Raymond's armor even looks like. Like, he's a squire. What does he have? Right? And of course, Lord Lionel Baratheon, who I don't care what anyone says, still too old to be Lord Lionel from damn books. Okay, when you get to season 10 of the show, you're gonna understand exactly what I'm saying for those of you who haven't read the books. But damn it, he's still too old. But yeah, he's handicapped the entire way because he's got all these people that either are lacking in experience. The experience has shown that they are absolute trash, or they are infirmed or not infirmed, but handicapped in some sort of regard due to, past injuries or even present injuries. So, regardless of who on Dunk's team, he's still fighting at a handicap all the way around. And so, this is definitely kind of a motley crew of people. Come on the other side, he's got Makar, he's got Arian, who you all know is going to play dirty regardless. You got 3 Knights of the King Guard. And he's got his other brother, even though Darrin isn't going to do a damn thing, and now Sir Stefan, who again was probably down to fight dirty as well. Yeah, there's just a lot. There's a lot of things actually going against Dunk when you look at who's on whose side. So when we get to the very final reveal, that that is something that is like, oh, it's almost like one of those things of watching like the Royal Rumble and one wrestler comes in and changes the tide for everything.
Sorry, my buttons weren't working there for a moment. Oh no, I had a thing going into this. Look, Sir Stefan, I could certainly say, look, he sold it. He was very angry with the Targaryens. Definitely is like, well, this is my land, and my people were here long before these Targaryens came, and we'll be here long after they leave. And yeah, he sold it. So that betrayal, man, that hurt. That hurt. Felt bad. Why did he do it? He's trading up. Again, it shows that much of these knights don't believe in honor. He's happy to trade his honor as long as the price is good enough and a lordship is a good enough price. A lesson he attempts to teach his cousin, who will have none of it. So, good on him. I think you're right, Don. I think he is also probably going to fight dirty. That was sort of implied in the whole training bit, I think, that we saw before, is he's also not very brave. What was he says? What does Buddy say before that? Like, if there's anyone that's injured in this first day of Tilt, Stefan will definitely challenge him next. So, I don't think he's going to prove as tough a competitor as we think, though it is very dangerous, out there. So anything can happen. Baratheon, yeah, I mean, you're right. He's not there because he's Dunk friends. I mean, he likes Dunk, but he's there for history. He's there to go against the Targaryens. All of these are correct, and all of these are they're fine, good reasons. If he's going to show up if you want somebody to show up for a fight, he's going to be the one to show up for a fight. As to the knighting, yeah, I think they are definitely implying, especially when you have, Sir Arlen doing the, as, Dunk's all kneeling down, you get the idea that he was like, and I was ready to be knighted. And the guy was like, yeah, well, I don't know what I can do. I'm just going to die. I don't know if you're ready. They definitely imply that. He will have to be knighted at a point in order to continue on. And I'm not sure if it's, you can be reunited as like an upgrade depending on the type of knight. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I'm curious what they are, because you're right. I had the belief that he was knighted, maybe even if not in such a formal manner. And maybe that's why he doesn't really know the whole thing, because he was just like, well, okay, Doug, I'm dying. You're a knight. If it was something like that, or if he was kind of blown off at the end, which would be sort of a messed up thing. I'm curious how they're going to sort of settle that out, because yeah, a knight can do a knight. The pause definitely implies that. And yeah, I think Baratheon also just covers up for him. Does he know? Does he suspect? Does he care? That, I don't think he really does. I think for Baratheon, he's probably like, fuck it, we're already here. You fight like a knight. We're gonna go with that, and maybe that will end up being the story there. But yeah, so it definitely puts a good question. Is I think they will have to settle it though, since they did really bring it up. In fact, now a couple of times was he really knighted?
So then they go out and talk to Dunk, and Dunk's like, "Look, we got 6 people. We'll take you on 6 to 7." They're like, "That's not how it works, guy. You gotta have 7, otherwise you're guilty." And so he goes and makes his empowered speech. Now, I remember reading this speech in the book or listening to it, as the case may be in the book. And I remember when I first heard it, I was like, "This is going to be a good scene in the show. This is gonna come off very well." And they played the snippet of it in the trailer, and I was like, "Yeah, no, this is a good moment where he goes up, because he's been like lumbering and shy and like stuttering and uncertain, but he sort of, I think he's very sincere in the moment. He's like, look, I'm in the right. I'm protecting the weak. I'm doing what a knight should be doing. Is there any other true knights out there? Is there any other true knights among you?" And the way he delivers it, I think, is really powerful. I think it was a really good performance. I'm not sure how I feel about the farting thing. The guy stands up, and so you think he's gonna be for him. I know he's not, because I read the book, but they're playing it off like he's gonna be for him, and he's gonna say yes. And they're playing the music, Game of Thrones music. Don, yes, it's gonna, and then he just farts. I don't know if that was the right time for a joke like that. I mean, but it does illustrate how these lords don't give a shit, and how they're petty, and but in the book they did this by, he like asked a couple people directly. It's like, "Sir, what's your face? Like, will you not fight for me?" He's like, I know you not. Go away." Which I actually think I prefer to the farting, but that's just me. But then of course we get the big reveal when Baylor comes out, and it shows, not only does it show that I think that he thinks doing the right thing is better than, respecting the hierarchy. I also think goes back to what people were saying before about how the Targaryen name has been degraded, and how the people kind of don't feel very well about Targaryens, and that he's very much aware of this, and that he's trying to make the name better. Like, he's trying to make it up to the small folks, which is why he's kind of beloved. And you can see that he is trying to do right by the smaller folk, and I think he realizes that this is exactly how you do it. It's like when we get back to the Steely Pete thing about illustrating how the small folk kind of are fed up with Targaryens, and especially being pretentious dickheads, like when breaking a puppeteer's fingers and then trying to kill someone for protecting her. I think they're seeing, they're fed up with it, and I think Baylor can know this and can see that they're legitimate, and it was like, no, I will fight for you. And then they had the Game of Thrones music, and this time they didn't lead into a shitting joke or a fart joke. They actually really used it, and this was actually, it made it more powerful, because they're saying, no, this time is real. This time, this is like a huge, like, Game of Thrones get up and cheer, like, yeah, moment. And it was like a really, really great way to end the episode. Yeah, Darren, we'll start with you on this one.
I thought it was a great speech. It was rousing. I'd forgotten that, you're right, he does call out specific people in the story. Why don't you do it? Why don't you? Why don't you? I am fine that it becomes a more general stuff. Was the fart thing a little dumb? Yeah. I guess we did have to have a bodily function somewhere in the episode. But I think it does, more than anything, underline the disdain, the separation that the nobility have. The knights, the ones that are supposed to be out there protecting the innocent, really aren't there for that. It's really a class type of thing. It's really, and we're not going to turn against the Targaryens. And I think as opposed to having some people specifically back out. I think just doing a general kind of judgment there was the way to do it. Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think that was the best of the choice, but it did effectively work for the kind of rabble that you would think that would be in the stands. Yeah, and as for Baylor, I do agree. I think this was basically put to him as, well, what kind of knight are you? You know, he was asking Dunk that earlier. You know, are you really trained? Can you fight? But I think that ends up with all the questions, and through the episode becomes the question thrown at him is like, what kind of knight are you? Are you here to defend the ink? And I think you're right. He sees that the people are not supporting the Targaryens. The Targaryens are all against this side, against the one guy that was protecting one of the people doing the right thing. I think in some ways he has to. But I also think that it's a choice, you know, and it's setting up to be like, hey, you're actually kind of a decent person in this. And you see that this is ridiculous. This should have just been Arian versus Dunk, and that's it. So there's got to be 7. We're not going to have the guy lose because he only has 6 people. You know, I think that probably pushed him to do it. Also, one last thing that I wanted to kind of throw in, reflecting back, when they are talking about cutting off his hands and cutting off his feet earlier, I loved his response to Aaron because it was like, oh, and your foot, because you kicked me. He's like, yes, I did. I love that Dunk put it right back onto him. Like, at that point, I'm not hiding or pretending that you're a high prince. You're a bully, you're a dick, and I was doing the thing that I was. So I think all that kind of sums up to this point for Dunk. And again, yeah, it was a great thing. The music, I think, was used appropriately in this, and gets us hyped for what's to come next week. Yeah. Don?
Baylor Breakspear. Even though they don't ever call him that. I wish they would actually, you know, use his nickname in there, because when he shows up, it's one of these things where it's like, okay, who's actually you know, gonna take up the cause now? You know, when you see who it is, I mean, obviously they've laid the groundwork with Dunk talking to him the entire time and back and forth, and you know, how good a night are you? So this was actually, you know, very, but you know, again, if I didn't know, I'd be like, holy shit, yes, yeah. And again, another one of those kind of you know, WWE moments where, you know, one wrestler shows up and it changes the tide of everything. It's like, oh my god, the rattlesnake is here, Steve Austin. You know, and when he confronts his brother was like, oh, he put his hands on my son. It's just like, yeah, come on, man. Listen, you know your son is a dick. You know he probably deserved that. Yeah, okay, but come on, man. Listen, let's just get this thing over with. You know, no, and you could kind of see like he's more so doing this, you know, to not only teach his family a lesson, but also to teach the realm a lesson in terms of this is what leadership looks like. You know, for him, he's supposed to be, he's the next in line for the throne. And if Targaryen, and if people have any hesitations about what kind of ruler he might be, this is to show like, no, I'm on the side of what I think is good and just. Doesn't matter whether or not it's my family. So just because someone happens to bear the name Targaryen, it doesn't mean that they just can do whatever they want and there are no consequences for it. So I think that this was, you know, brave on his part to even show up like this, because yeah, now people are going to be looking like, oh wait, hold on, we thought that this was a bad thing. But also The other thing that makes this a little different is the fact that we are still not too far removed from the Blackfire Rebellion. That was a Targaryen civil war, the second Targaryen civil war in history. You know, and I think that's going to play a lot into it as well because people are going to be like, wait, well, hold on. You just fought a war against some bastards a few years back, and now the two guys who were the hammer and the anvil are on opposite ends in sort of like a mini civil war here at this tournament. So that's the other thing that people are going to be looking at as well, is like, is there inner turmoil with the Targaryens, so much so that now how do you fighting against, like, this isn't two separate branches like it was back in the Dance of the Dragons. This isn't the main branch versus the cadet branch as it was with the Blackfire Rebellion. Like, no, these two are brothers, same mother, same father. How's all this working out now? Like, it's gotten to the point where now, even the two closest brothers who put down the last rebellion are now fighting. So, there's a lot of different dynamics in the way that this can kind of look to the people of the realm. And, I like that a lot, that you get there's so many different layers that are added to just these small little sequence of events. So I can't wait to see how it all turns out next year, next week with the actual tourney and how they have that play out. Because I mean, it's supposed to be a doozy. This is supposed to be the best jousting put to film. So let's see what happens.
Did you hear that? It's supposed to be the best jousting put to film.
Or at least that's what they were aiming for.
Okay, gotcha. It's kind of sucks that they showed this one on Friday, because this is like, that was the damn cliffhanger, like leading right into the big battle, and we have to wait longer for this one since it's coming back on Sunday. But that's okay, I guess. But anyway,
I waited till Sunday to watch this episode,
oh, you
so
did?
I was just keeping
Okay.
with the schedule. So yeah,
Yeah.
helps with my brain.
Probably smart to do it that way. I did not have the willpower to do that. Anyway, well, part of the reason is I don't want to be spoiled. I have too much on like my Facebook and YouTube feeds that like will spoil.
That's a good point.
But anyway, I try not to spoil anyone. I will say that. Anyway, yes, thanks everyone for joining for this discussion. Very lively discussion. A bit longer this time, but this is a more meatier episode. More to talk about in this episode. And yeah, thanks for everyone in the chat. We had Stress Free K, Brandon, and Jake came and popped by. Brandon says lots of blurry views through helmets next week. Well, we'll see. I think I saw one in the trailer, but I think that could be used very well to show you Dunk's perspective and how he doesn't have like full vision. So hopefully it's not too much, though. Hopefully it's not like the battle, like the Winterfell thing in season 8 where you couldn't see a goddamn thing. I don't think it's gonna be like that. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys. Definitely Don and Darren for joining. Great to see you as always. Don, if you want to give a shout out to what you got going on, and yeah, whatever.
Listen, I'm just here as always. I need to be working on these damn shirts. Sorry, listen. It was my birthday weekend. I wasn't, in the greatest shape, unfortunately. And I had to watch an American who speaks Spanish piss off a bunch of people who think he's not American because he speaks Spanish. So, yeah. But no, I'll be back here next week, of course. Thank you as always for having me, and thank you to everyone in the chat watching. live and those who are watching the archives.
All right, Darren, what you got going on?
I'm actually like in a little dead zone, little break, which is good because I have a whole bunch of tax stuff I have to do. So that's probably good not to be too distracted. We just finished up Fallout Season 2 over on Smirking Gun with Rob, and for the big finale, had both of these guys join us. Was actually a great discussion. You can go over to Smirking Gun and check out our Fallout Season 2 finale discussion. A lot of fun. I will be doing probably, most likely, in case something crazy happens, Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again, which I think comes out, end of March, if I remember correctly. So you can catch that over in D's Reviews. Otherwise, I'll be here next week and for the next 2 weeks talking with these guys about this show. And yeah, I'm excited. There's definitely a lot more meat happening, so a lot more things to talk about.
Cool. And if you're finding me for the first time, my name is Mark, Channels Enchantment of Eternity, be covering Night of the Seven Kingdoms every week. These guys, as we said, also cover Star Trek, lots of Star Trek stuff. Covering every episode of Star Trek, currently in Season 5 of Deep Space Nine, Season 3 of Voyager. Also covering the new Starfleet Academy show week to week, so you can check me out for that. Anyway, yeah, be sure to check out our channels, subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.